You can't fix broken. Ukraine is broken, can't be fixed. Um, you know, money doesn't make manpower sprout out of nowhere. Ukraine needs manpower. They don't have it. They're taking massive casualties at the front lines. They can't replace those casualties. The money that's being sent isn't enough to replace the material being destroyed by Russia on the battlefield. Military math is such that Ukraine is depleting human and physical resources at a rate far greater than they can be replenished. Giving the Ukrainians F-16s will actually accelerate the process of their defeat. It's a horrible weapon system, especially when applied in this manner. They don't have bases where they can operate from. The planes have zero survivability and zero sustainability. They will start taking losses once they chew through the pilots. There will be nobody to fly these planes. It's just a non-factor. Again, logistics is what you have to talk about. Quit talking to me about manpower and all this stuff, showing those numbers. Back in the 1980s, the United States had the finest military in the world. We really did. We trained hard. We were well equipped, well led. But we still had to operate within the realm of reality. We had 250,000 troops in Germany. We were prepared to fly in another 300,000 within 10 days so that we could put in more than 500,000 American ground combat forces to fight as part of a unified NATO structure to hold back a Soviet attack. But let's not talk about the number of troops or even the tanks, tens of thousands of tanks. Let's talk about fuel. If you got tens of thousands of tanks, they chug diesel. You have other mechanized support chugs gasoline. Where's that come from? You just can't take your tank to a gas station and say, hey, fill me up. You got to have the fuel there. And it's got to be part of a plan that's been made to say we need to have enough fuel to sustain this amount of equipment over this period of time, which means you need massive fuel depots that are dedicated just for that responsibility. Ammunition. You got 500,000 guys getting ready to go into combat, intense combat, where you're going to be firing off rounds like you've never fired them off before. Where's that ammo coming from? Got to have massive ammunition dumps. Now, to have the fuel and the ammunition dumps means that you have to have defense industry that is producing this stuff. You have to have, the ability within your refinery capability to produce this excess capacity that's being stored there. But when the Cold War ended, we stopped dealing with excess because you know what's the problem with excess capacity is? It ain't very economically efficient. In fact, it's the most inefficient thing economically you can think of, to have more than you need and just have it sitting there doing nothing. And so we were looking for the peace dividend. So we got away with this. We reduced our forces. We said there's not going to be a large-scale conflict in Europe anymore. So we only need enough ammunition and fuel set aside for very short duration conflicts involving very limited number of troops. And we've never adjusted to that.
Scott Ritter is a former U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer who served in the former Soviet Union implementing arms control treaties, in the Persian Gulf during Operation Desert Storm and in Iraq overseeing the disarmament of WMD. He has testified before a combined Armed Services/Foreign Affairs hearing of the U.S. Senate, and before the House Foreign Relations and National Security Committees. He has spoken to NATO, the United Nations, and the British, Canadian, Italian, French, Iraqi, Japanese, and European parliaments. Covering Ukraine, the Scott Ritter Interviews Through the Eyes of Anya Kay is a unique and timely addition to the literature on the conflict in Ukraine. It offers a fresh look at complex problems that will empower and entertain the reader with new insights and sharp analysis of a war few understand. And this book's interview style makes that apparent. This is a necessary book full of thought and insight into war and geopolitics. Scott and Anya's conversations delve into the deeper, psychological reasons for what we see occurring in terms of individuals, nations, and history, making this book invaluable. There is no greater American authority on this war, the Russian military and the American empire, than Scott Ritter. This is his 11th and latest book.